Fas Fascinating. Another question, um, is there any chance that Yoon is going to remain in office? And if he does, what happens then?
I, I'm curious to hear what Chang and Jumin think. I just don't see it. I don't see a realistic path back for him after this. I think, most of the constitutional law experts I spoke to seem to think that his, vote is pretty much the court ruling is pretty much a foregone conclusion. Because if you recall, the previous president who was impeached, she was impeached for, influence peddling and graft. Bad, but, kind of nothing. I mean, like this is on another level. Um, so I think we have to sort of consider the scale of what he did here.
Um, um, I agree. I'm pretty sure he will be impeached, but I think Yoon literally had that in his calculation too. Like he prepared for what if the martial law doesn't succeed. Yeah, and he had planned for dragging this as long as he can. And there's a really complication about constitutional judges. Two of them will the that will expire. Their term will expire in April. And they were both assigned by the former president, who was the Democratic Party. So all this calculation was in his mind when he actually decided to do it. So he will try to drag this as long as he can and try to survive this political turmoil for him. Then, it could be really bad if he survives this.
Got it. Another question. This one is about journalists. Have there um, have any of you experienced any physical attacks by Yoon's supporters? And how are you managing this situation? Anything you can say about kind of the role of the media in this, and whether the press is coming under fire at all.
Yeah, everyone knows, the NBC cameramen were attacked during that. It's personally, I've been like a lot of time uh take a I lift my camera out and try to take picture, and they ask me whom I represent, and they want to make sure I'm not on the left side. They claim they're left-sided media, but they want to know who's taking picture of them too. So a lot of time they ask me, and I tell them New York Times, and then some people they get confused. Is New York Times left or right? But I tell them we cover both sides. So usually I'm okay, but I had friends who were like almost hit by the protesters, and that is current present danger.
Maybe, yeah, maybe I want to share my experience as well on the ground. When I covered, pro-Yoon rallies with my American colleague, he's been loved by these people, the pro-Yoon supporters, my American colleague, because, they are pro-Trump. They wave American flags all the time. They hold this "Stop the Steal" slogans, all the time. So they love American journalists. Uh, whatever company that person is working for, but at the same time, I have to, identify myself as an international, journalist. Although I'm a South Korean national, to make them feel better, or feel less agitated. But sometimes I hear some kind of racial slur, like, people call me like blackhead foreign press, meaning I am a South Korean national, working for the foreign press, and people call me that term. from time to time on at those rallies.
That's interesting, and there is a question about you mentioned stop the steal. There is a question about that. How did that term come to be used in South Korea? And I actually would, before you answer that, Jumin, there was a paragraph in one of your stories that relates to this that jumped out at me. You mentioned an evangelical pastor who is I guess a key figure in some of these pro-Yoon demonstrations, and at the time he told you or you reported that he had planned to attend Trump's inauguration and speak to him about election fraud in South Korea. Who is this guy? So those are the questions. I'm bringing it back to Trump, and how sort of Trumpism has caught on in at least a portion of South Korea.
So the Pastor John Kwang-hoon, he's a notorious far-right kind of political activist. He's a pastor, but at the same time, he's a very, very far right political activist. He's one of the main organizers for pro-Yoon rallies every weekend at the city center. But he's been doing those rallies before Yoon as well. And one of the key agendas that he's been spreading is election frauds and election rigging, and the actually he's been saying that Chinese and North Korean forces kind of has been rigging our election systems, and the opposition lawmakers are all fake. They are not, the Chinese help elect them, not South Koreans. So these are the main, claims of his election fraud, conspiracy theories. And, Yoon is reportedly, following his YouTube channels and his speeches and his rally, his broadcasts. So and
alleging fraud.
yeah.
I just wanted to jump in for a second. He's alleging fraud in the elections last spring, where Yoon's party was pretty roundly defeated. Correct?
Yeah.
Did I have that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
But it's not the only election he's been saying was fraudulent. He's been saying that the last presidential election, even though Yoon won, but he said he could have won by a larger margin if there was no election rigging. But another key thing that he's been saying on stage is, Trump, please, save Yoon. He's been begging, Trump to save Yoon from this crisis. And Yoon, like Trump, he firmly believed, or at least on in public, he's been saying that Trump will support Yoon because they are aligned on this election fraud campaigns or fight. So it's been interesting. I have to follow up, but the pastor was actually in the States to attend the inauguration, and he's been claiming that he got like 10-minute face-to-face chat with Trump. I don't know whether that happened or not. I had to go back to him, but during that conversation, he said he will flag this election fraud crisis in South Korea with Trump and get his buy-in as well.
I think if I may add to that, I think that Jung Kang-hoon himself had his own political party, Liberty Unification Party, and before the election, he had pretty good public polls, like 3 to 5%, and he believed it. And then, but in fact, after the fact was he only won 0.3 or 5%, really low. So that's, I think that really caused him to think there was a election fraud because the result was really disappointing than he expected.